Engagement Manager at the National Research Foundation in the business unit, the South African Agency for Science and Technology Advancement. And to maybe summarize what I'm looking for today is 3 A's and an I. Accessibility of your presentation. How accessible is the information, is the terminology that you are using, how accessible you make your research to somebody that's not a technical specialist in your field. Authenticity. How authentic are you? We're all individuals and we have an individual way of being. How authentic are you in your approach to bring us that and creative in some sense? What's the other A? Accessibility, impact, authenticity, and accuracy. Of course, we're researchers, we're scientists. We need to be accurate in what we're portraying and not over-accurate, not overstated in what we know, because we know that all research projects have unknowns as well. And so to be true to the unknowns of your project as well. And then impact, trying to link this up. What is why? The why of your research. Why is your research important? So that's what I'll be looking at. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mike. Thank you. Let's afford an opportunity to... Thank you. Let's afford the opportunity to the online judge, Professor Erica. Is she online with us?
Yes. Hello. Can you hear me?
Hi, Prof. Over to you. Thank you.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Yes. Yes.
Excellent. Hello. Good morning, everybody. My name is Erica Mancini. I'm from the University of Sussex School of Life Sciences, where I'm Professor of Biomedical Structural Biology. I'm really honored to be here this morning, especially because in my university, I'm also the Director of Early Career Research Development. So early career researchers are really occupy a really special place in my heart. So today I'll be looking forward to hearing your presentations. And what I will be looking at specifically is really the passion that transpires from your presentations, the passion for your research work. Thank you very much, and looking forward to hearing all your beautiful talks.
Thank you so much, Prof. Thank you. So out of your presentations, just to give you a briefing, we will be judged on 4 main components. That is your comprehension, content, engagement, and your communication. So you need to actually ensure you are educating us. When you're standing here in front, you are the educator. Imagine us as spectators who do not know anything. You need to educate us or teach us. So that is the actual sense of this competition, where you will be scored on comprehension, content, engagement, and communication. You need to ensure that your communication, it is clear. A 5-year-old can understand. Your dad or your grandma can be able to comprehend what you are sharing with us. So with that being said, we are going to start with the first master's student. We are in the master's category. So we are going to call up the first participants, and then at the end, there will be a question and answer. Then we'll afford an opportunity to 2 judges per participant to ask question. Then we'll move along to the next person to present. So now on stage, we are going to call up on Atule Nganibani. Is she here? Thank you. So it is Mr. Atule Nganibani. All the best, all to you. So you will need to proceed to the stage and the podium. That is where you are going to present, and looking forward to the to the congregation or to the to everyone. I'm at church now. I'm at church. Thank you. So looking towards to your audience. Thank you so much.
One, two. Imagine Imagine you are a bank deciding who gets a loan. You have to ensure those who get a loan are able to pay them back. But what if I told you that many of the systems we use to make these decisions might be unfair or even inaccurate? This is not just about numbers, it's about people, fairness, and trust. Our research tackles this challenge by exploring new ways to make lending more reliable and just for everyone. Let's dive into the problem. In credit risk analysis, where banks try to predict who might not repay a loan, there's a significant imbalance. Most people do repay their loans, so the data we use is full of good borrowers. However, this makes it challenging to identify the few who might not repay. Traditional methods often fail to detect these risky borrowers, leading to poor decisions that can either unfairly deny someone a loan or cause financial loss to the institution. To address this, we explored how machine learning can be improved. Machine learning is a collection of advanced statistical and computational techniques. Instead of getting into technical details, think of it like teaching a class of students where only a few might struggle. By focusing on those few, we can better understand their needs and improve outcomes for everyone. Our approach uses techniques that balance the data more fairly, giving equal attention to all types of borrowers. This helps create a more accurate and fair prediction model. The goal is simple: to ensure banks can lend confidently and fairly, reducing bias and promoting equality. So, what should you take away from this? It is not just about numbers and data. It is about ensuring fairness in our financial systems. By improving how we analyze credit risk, we are not just helping banks, we are helping people. Imagine a world where everyone is judged fairly when it comes to financial decisions. That's the impact of our research. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Atule, for affording us an opportunity to listen to your exciting presentation. Now, I'm going to grant an opportunity to judges to engage your presentation. Yes, so over to you, Dr. Palisa and Prof. Erica online. Thank you.
Great, can I move this? Okay, thank you so much. That was really an interesting and pertinent topic. I think you did the three things correctly. One is on placing what is the problem, and then what is the context of that problem, and what is the solution. I just want to ask a question about the applications of that in like the communication that you're using from your research. Like what are you going to do after your findings?
After we balanced the data, we are going to apply our prediction models because the data is not balanced. In a typical bank data, the data is balanced. We have many good borrowers. So we have to balance the data first, then we can apply our machine learning model.
Thank you so much, Dr. Palisa. Over to you, Prof. Erica.
Hello, a really nice presentation. I'm really sorry, I think I had some connection problems, so I didn't hear everything. So I'm hoping that the connection problems are going to disappear. However, my question would be, how are your techniques superior, or what is the sort of advantage over more traditional statistical methods?
Traditional methods, they are not able to deal with the class imbalance because the data is not balanced. So traditional methods will favor the category with more observations. So advanced techniques will make sure that the model is not biased towards the non-defaulters.
Thank you.
Give Mr. Atule Nganibani a round of applause. Now, up next, we're going to call up Siyanda Mazibuko.
Okay, I'm a bit short, so I'll squeeze it out of the way. Here we go. Here we go. I hope this is allowed. Okay, I just want to ask a quick question. The timer starts when I start speaking, right? Yes. Okay, brilliant. Okay. Oh, where's my presentation?
But your presentation is up and immediately you start to move. That's why we start.
Okay, and I'm going to have to put it up myself?
Sorry. No, the timer is up. It's just we want to flash your presentation.
No, I'm asking if I put the presentation on, does the timer start? Oh.
It's not on now.
Okay.
So immediately when we see your presentation on the screen, that's when we start with the timer immediately.
Okay. I hear you. Don't laugh at me, please.
Relax. Breathe in and out. Relax. Let me help you.
Okay. Imagine you're at home cooking and you're slicing and dicing, and all of a sudden, you've sliced your finger. It bleeds a little, it stings a little, but not enough to cause you panic. So you find that a couple of days later, after you've ignored the seamless cut, you find that your finger is swollen and oozing pus. So you go to the doctor, and they tell you that you've been infected by bacteria. You have a bacterial infection. They give you antibiotics to kill the bacteria and treat the infection. You consume the antibiotics for about a week or so and expect to get better, but you find that you develop a chilling fever, and the pain in your finger has swollen throughout your hand. You go back to the hospital, you tell them this, and they give you a variety of even more antibiotics, different antibiotics, but still your condition worsens. Eventually, the infection kills you. You have been killed by antimicrobial resistance, which means the bacteria that infected you is resistant to one or more of the antimicrobials or antibiotics that you were given. Now, antimicrobial resistance is a silent but deadly global health pandemic that killed over 1 million people in 2019, a number that's predicted to rise to over 10 million by the year 2050. That's as much as COVID and cancer put together. So that's why my research focuses on monitoring antimicrobial resistance in wastewater treatment plants. But why wastewater treatment plants? Because they receive all the nasty bacteria and all the sewage that comes from our hospitals and our households, and it tries to treat it before throwing it back out into the rivers, into our oceans, and sometimes it's even reused, even right here on campus. So I isolated bacteria from untreated wastewater, and I isolated bacteria from treated wastewater. Unsurprisingly, I found more bacteria in untreated wastewater than the treated wastewater, which is good. But after I identified these bacteria, I did special tests on them to see exactly which antimicrobials are they resistant to. And unfortunately, I found that over 90% of the bacteria that I looked at were resistant to antimicrobials. Not just any antibiotics, highly important antibiotics that are used in last-ditch situations when nearly all other antibiotics have already been tried. So if you're exposed to these bacteria, you could potentially get infected, you could get ill, or you could die. Or you could even spread antimicrobial resistance even further. So by looking at the untreated wastewater, we can determine exactly which antibiotic-resistant bacteria are coming from our households, our homes, our communities, and our hospitals. And by looking at the treated wastewater, we can help wastewater treatment plants in reducing the amount of antimicrobial resistance that's released into the environment. So our data will ultimately protect global health from antimicrobial resistance.
Wow. Thank you so much.
Okay, questions. I forgot about the questions. I was about to run away.
Thank you so much, our superstar, Mr. Bacteria, for blessing us with an exciting, engaging presentation. So over to you, Dr. Priscilla and Mr. Mike.
Okay, well done. That was a very interesting presentation.
Thank you very much. Can you hear me? Okay, thank you very much for the question, Doc. So basically, we want to inform the hospitals and the communities that antimicrobial resistance is a serious, serious problem. I mean, 10 million per year by the year 2050, that is incredible. I mean, it's a silent but deadly pandemic because nobody really knows about it. So firstly, we want to raise awareness and then inform medical care providers, healthcare providers that we shouldn't just be prescribing antimicrobials or antibiotics to people with flu. I mean, flu is caused by a virus. Antibiotics are meant to treat bacteria. So by giving random people antibiotics and by not finishing your course, you essentially give the bacteria another chance to develop resistance and spread it even further. It can happen so quickly. I'll always like to tell students that I speak to that it's almost like looking at evolution on a small scale because it's that quick and they can evolve that quickly. And then secondly, we want to inform the wastewater treatment plants that, hey, yeah, you are removing a whole lot of bacteria, but if you look at the data that we got, I mean, I found an average 48% reduction of the bacterial, but it's not enough. There is just too much bacteria still there.
Sianda, I think the applause at the end of your presentation spoke a lot. Yeah, that simple word that you started with, imagine, such a powerful start to your presentation. You drew us in from the very first word. You have a real gift in speaking, in captivating an audience, in drawing people in. You know, they say with great power comes great responsibility, so I will hand that to you. Sianda, I want to touch on how you finished your presentation, which was also powerful. You know, you talked about the ultimate protection that your research leads to, but you got us quite panicked through your presentation about the current problem. So the question is, what do we need to do now before your research and this type of research actually has an impact on the current water problem? What do we currently need to do to protect ourselves? Thanks.
Okay, thank you very much for the question. So I think immediately we have to think of ourselves as individuals. So I think as an individual, to protect yourself from antimicrobial resistance, I mean, it's just protecting yourself from bacteria in general, because that's what ultimately causes the problem. So during COVID, we sort of became a bit better in taking care of ourselves and avoiding sort of infections. But right now, what we can do personally, don't just take antimicrobials or antibiotics when you don't need them. When you are given them, finish your course. And future research, I think, yes, I've told you about all the doom and gloom, but now let's perhaps look at the solution. We can look at ozone, using ozone to clean the water, using UV light to clean the water, using chlorination. I mean, I've heard of people using silver and nanoparticles. I've learned so much. So we can use just about anything, but we need to really, really research that a bit more.
Thank you. Excellently done.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mazibuko. Now we're going to call up next Okuhle Maqina or Maqina.
One, two. Let me breathe. Okay. It's up on my screen, but it's not up here. Yeah. Of course.
Yes, ma'am. You can do this.
Right. I am a recent graduate, eager to go into the world of work, but every time I apply for job applications, you must have a driver's license, you must have a car. Or better yet, I've been working at a company for over 20 years, and for some reason, I found out that a fellow colleague is paid more money than I am, and this colleague has also been working in the same company 20 years. We've got the same experience, but for some reason or another, this colleague of mine is being paid more money than I am. Now, is this discrimination as listed in the Employment Equity Act? No. This is exactly why then the legislature has brought in this new terminology within the Employment Equity Act, which assesses discrimination on an arbitrary ground. So what is an arbitrary ground, ladies and gentlemen? An arbitrary ground is a form of discrimination that is irrational, a form of discrimination that is not based on principle and one that is capricious. And it's quite sad to find out that these types of discrimination exist within society in South Africa, where we celebrate 30 years of democracy, but still there are barriers within the employment system, right? So what does my research then look at? We look at what is the true meaning of the term arbitrary ground, because this is a fairly new term that came about within the 2014 amendments to the Employment Equity Act. There's no definition in the Act, and then this duty is then left to the courts to decide. And then the highest court that has decided on what exactly is an arbitrary ground is a Labour Appeal Court, where they had to determine whether or not nepotism can be termed as an arbitrary ground. And I think common sense would dictate that nepotism is definitely discrimination, but if I told you that the Labour Appeal Court actually ruled that no, nepotism cannot be an arbitrary ground because they have applied a narrow interpretation in terms of what an arbitrary ground actually is. The narrow interpretation basically says that, you know what, an arbitrary ground is synonymous to an unlisted ground, and that it needs to be analogous to your listed grounds of discrimination, sex, gender, it must be a characteristics. And then you have a scholar, Dutoit, that speaks about a broader interpretation of what an arbitrary ground, looking at the grammatical and ordinary meaning of the term. And my research then agrees with Dutoit to say that because discrimination in the current state of affairs is so nuanced, the type of solutions that we want to bring onto that particular problem need to be also nuanced. So the courts need to approach a broader interpretation as to what an arbitrary ground is in order to achieve employment equality and in order to achieve constitutional equality in Section 9. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Okuhle, for a beautiful, engaging presentation. Now I'm going to hand over to my judges.
Thank you, Okule. I think that was really an eye-opening presentation. I feel like I need to know more about this. I'm being schooled. And I think it's really important also that we bring about these topics out, you know, to also understand our context in the democracy, and also to try to articulate some of these very gray areas, very blurry environments. So I mean, I'm always keen to know how you are going to take this research out to the public, to inform the public, because you were mentioning that the definitions are really left to the courts, and somebody's going to go to the CCMA and say, I'm being discriminated against, and there's no particular category for it. So how will you communicate this out?
Thank you so much for that question, ma'am. So the way in which we want to bring the research out is that we want to ensure that firstly people are educated, right? And then the way in which we are going to do this is to ensure that people are adequately represented at the CCMA. That's why at the law faculty we have a specialized unit called the Labor Advice and Social Security Unit, where we have specialized lawyers that sort of like give you pro bono legal advice and sort of like help you to build your case at the CCMA, because unfortunately some of the barriers are that you know, ordinary employees cannot be represented at conciliations, but at the faculty we have a specialized unit where we actually assist you in preparing for your conciliation proceedings, and then also representing you at, you know, your arbitration proceedings. So it's a very difficult question to answer, because it's really difficult to go out there to each and every person to actually inform them that, you know what, if you're being treated like this at work, this is what you need to do. But that is the little that we are doing at the faculty, is to ensure that, you know, adequate representation at the CCMA and adequate and good legal advice is being given to, you know, your ordinary workers that are not typically represented by unions and are expected to appear at the CCMA by themselves. So that is how then we are sort of like engaging with the community through that unit. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you so much, Sissy. Over to you, Prof. Erika. Are you still with us online?
Yes, hello, can you hear me? Hello, can you hear me? Hello? Hello?
Hi, Prof. If you are experiencing any technical issues. Okay.
Oh, I can hear my voice an echo. I hope you can hear me well. If so, can you tell me that you can hear me?
Yes, you can ask your question, Prof. Thanks.
Yes. Okay, fantastic. Excellent. Okay, great. Sorry, I just can't see very well the room, and I'm having troubles with the connection. I really apologize for this. I've tried to move in a part of the of my house where there might be better connection. So, anyway, thank you very much, Okule. That was an enlightening presentation, and it really showed your passion for your research. My question is in relation to unconscious bias and whether it is possible to evaluate a component of unconscious bias within the arbitrary grounds evaluations.
Thank you so much, Prof. Definitely, I think the issue with the Labour Appeal Court judgment must have probably been an unconscious bias within, the judges that heard the matter within that particular instance. So that is why then we need to constantly critique the judgments that come out of court. And how do we critique that? We critique those judgments through academic writings. We critique those judgments through publications, and that is the whole purpose then of this paper, is to critique the judgment in that particular court as to find the real reason why is it that 30 years after democracy we are still sort of like not seeing an issue with nepotism within the workplace. That can't be the case. So that is how then we sort of like critique and try to get to the root of these unconscious bias, because also we can see to the fact that judges are people and they have their own beliefs, and definitely unconscious bias then also exists within, the judgments that they produce. But what we also then need to do as lawyers, young lawyers, black lawyers, is to critique the judgments that come out of these courts, then to sort of like reach the equality that is mandated by the Constitution and the Employment Equity Act as well.
Thank you so much, Okuhle. You may proceed to your seat. So now we are done with the masters category. Can we please give them all a round of applause? So thank you so much. Now we're going to proceed to the next category, calling the big guys, the PhD candidates, pulling up some guns for us. I am not sure if Mr. Ezekiel Majola is up ready for us. So the up next participant is Mr. Ezekiel Majola. Over to you.
Vocational education in South Africa is believed to address the human resource needs of the country. And vocational education also is deemed to be to address the historically disadvantaged students, for them to get employment opportunities. It gives them necessary skills and expertise that is going to help the country, also to enhance the employability of these students. The current understanding, or the prevailing understanding of vocational education in South Africa, is primarily based on on human capital theory and productivist approach. So this approach it seeks to train students with the necessary expertise which the country needs. The problem is that the views of these students that it seeks to give skills are not taken into account. So my research asked the question that Powell 2014 asked: are the students that are being given this type of education, is their lives changed from participating from this vocational education? So this study seeks to speak to the experience of these TVET graduates. So the study uses participatory action research informed by Paulo Freire. It seeks to engage in dialogues with these students. Are these students satisfied with their lives after graduating? Is their life has been enhanced? And then only to find out the findings of this study, find out that the current vocational education is perpetuating cycles of poverty. The lives of these students is not being changed. Instead, they find their inequalities being continually regressed. So the education space is not purely addressing the needs of these students.
Thank you so much, Mr. Ezekile. Now we're going to hand over to our judges, Dr. Palisa and Mr. Mike. Thank you.
If you want to improve your kind of H index, it's really valuable to any differently by the NRF to other publications.
Well, so are you guys online? Can and how they viewed?
Went Vuyo. Go on, Vuyo.
Ezekiel, thank you for discussing this very important topic with us. As part of Research Week, we had the annual Young Scientists Conference. And one of the questions the conference is addressing is, are we training Africans for the 21st century? What do you think TVET colleges need to do differently in order to address the problems that you highlighted?
I think the first thing that TVET is experiencing, currently we are not engaging with these students that are supposed to benefit. The problem currently is that all what we know about TVET is not influenced by these current students that are the recipient of this education. What we know is the productivism, which is for me, which is a problem. By the way, I'm a TVET lecturer myself. So we are not informed because we just give them education based on, let's say, on the FTEs, but we are not going back to find out, are these the lives of these students are changed. So what we need actually to do is to go back and to do an assessment. Is this thing working? Is this thing, are these skills that we are giving people that we are supposed to enhance their life, is it actually doing what it's supposed to do? And then you find out you train someone to be let's say to be an engineering. It breaks my heart, and then you find those people are till operators. So, but we said you have given these people skills. So as DHET, they are not doing just orders to go back to the students. What is the problem? What is the current problem? But because we are here at the university space, we can write as much quantitative research, but we need to go back to the grassroots because these people are affected. They have got solutions. If you're to find like the paper that we currently wrote, these students have got ideas. These students have got something to say which can improve their lives, but we are not giving them space to speak about their issues.
Thank you so much. I'm going to hand over to the next judge.
Thank you so much for your presentation. And yeah, I just want to agree with Priscilla in saying, it's such an incredibly important area for us to get right as South Africa is vocational training. I think unfortunately, as you've noted, we're failing in many aspects and failing the young people in this country because of that. My question is, I often think that we design curriculums in places like TVET colleges that aren't linked to a future, that aren't linked to a job or a job market. How do we ensure that in the TVET spaces? So the role of engaging with the actual people being trained in a participatory way, that is so valuable, as you pointed out. Are there other participants in that conversation that you think need to be included to be able to ensure that the skills in TVET colleges are actually responding to a need in society? Thanks.
I'm not sure if I've heard you correctly, but I'm going to try to answer my best. But I want you to repeat the last part that you said.
So it's essentially, how do we ensure that the skills that we give these TVET students are actually useful to create jobs for themselves and to find jobs for themselves? Yeah.
Okay. So the first thing is that for me, you'll be shocked if I were to tell you that the current curriculum of TVET colleges, mostly, especially on the area that I'm teaching, is 1995 curriculum, but we are in 2024. And you always hear ministers saying that, Minister of Education saying TVET colleges are doing this, but is the curriculum itself speaking to what? To the current needs? Are the resources being employed towards channeling these skills? So those are the things that we need to address. For me, the first thing that we need to engage with, the curriculum developers, maybe the university space, to start to engage on this debate. Because if you're to find out, my research is not about recommendation. We need to spark a debate. We need to start to think about this, to critically engage this. Is this social justice? Is this the education that we are supposed to give to these kids? Unless we start to engage on this debate, we are not going to find the right way. But so my research is all about we need to engage in the debate. So it's a reimagining the TVET space. But this is not going just to happen. But we need to speak about it. I'm glad such a platform where, but it's always unfortunate because on such a space, you don't find TVET students themselves, but we often spoke about them as if they are right there. But we need to start to engage in them, like on these debates, on such research weeks. You can take all the schools, but never an invitation that went to TVET colleges here in Nelson Mandela. But we are talking about them. So that's where we need to start. I think.
Thanks.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Mr. Ezekiel, for teaching us on the TVET space. Now we're going to call up the next participant, Andu Pujirana. Are you ready for us? Let's give her a round of applause as she's proceeding to the stage.
Imagine having a solar cell more efficient just by tweaking a tiny detail from our material. So my PhD research talking about introducing a new precursor for future generation of solar cell. We're choosing MOVPE. There is a challenge to using that MOVPE. But there is also a benefit because the low cost using MOVPE depending to other methods like a MBE. So best because it's challenging, we are trying to optimize our characterization by choosing a specific novel precursor. So for the gallium arsenide nitride, it's a very small atom that you couldn't see, or let's say imagine how to make the gallium arsenide and nitrogen bonding nicely and we have a nice crystal structure. That's the solar cell is going to be bring you to absorb the energy of sun. So if you see now, after we grow we grow. So we did characterization, choosing the best, the high resolution like a SRD, a photoluminescence, to show how good your quality and how promising gallium arsenide nitride as a new precursor for the solar cell. After, not only that, when we are already successful to grow, successful to do many characterization, optical, structural, showing that this is a high quality, but it doesn't guarantee if you want to make a devices. So we move forward to do electrical characterization like IV, CV, and DLTS. Because in the some characterization, they don't show you the deep level of the defect. So the sign of the material is perfect when you have a low defect, perfect crystal, and higher efficiency, and absorption with the shine from the PL photoluminescent optical characterization. And then we are my future research promising that we are successful to providing a new material for solar cell. Thank you.
Okay, got it. Thank you, Andy. Okay, so one of the most important things to do when you are doing the public engagement like this is to remember your audience all the time. I feel like you were using a lot of jargon and a lot of acronyms, and all of us are not chemists, and we have lost you. Although, I mean, I think we are lucky we've got your abstract, so we have some context about your research. So I'm going to give you just a minute, even less than that, to just tell us why we need these solar cells, why are they important, and why is your research important around these solar cells?
So the lack of the energy now we face is like in South Africa, especially load shedding, and even now we already successful to load shedding is been a month or 2 months, but there is another problem again, the station or whatever, but now we are having a solar cell, but unfortunately the efficiency of the solar cell is still have a limit, and that's why we try to develop the new candidate of the precursor, because until now there is no such a pattern that this is the best quality of the by using this material to have a higher absorption more than more than 40 or 60%. So what we are trying to do here is, based on the researcher have already funding, they still have a challenge that the absorption is low or higher, but the defect is still there. So it means the defect is we try to eliminate by using our new precursor and studying with the low carbon and especially low cost.
Over to you, Prof. Online, Prof. Erika.
Hello. So again, I hope you can hear me. I'm having still a little bit of troubles. Anyway, thank you very much, Andy, for your very interesting presentation. I enjoyed also the technical aspects of them. My question was in relation to what is the current state of the art in your field, and what do you think the advantage of your system is and your materials are? Is it more economical advantages, or is it more green advantages?
Thank you, Prof. So the answer is for the epitaxial layer, especially we are growing for the solar cell, we are only formally known as MBE, molecular beam epitaxy, but unfortunately the cost is very high. But by using MOVPE, the reason that we are choosing this is the low cost, but the challenging is to find the parameter by playing with all the growth condition. So such a 5:2 ratio, we have a molar ratio from the precursor itself, but we also have a molar phase from the liquid metal organic. So I come back to explain that MOVP is metal organic. Metal organics that we're using. So our precursor is based on the liquid.
Thank you so much, Andy. Let's give her a round of applause as she's proceeding to her seat. Okay, now up next, we have an online participant, that is Monica Changane. So we're going to allow her some time to settle online while she's assisting us with showcasing her presentation. But that is the last presenter just before break time. Then after this last presenter, we will proceed to the session inside to have little tea. And then now we are going to come back into the same venue. At least if we can settle by 10:55, then we can start with the first presenter by 11 o'clock. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Good morning, everyone. It is quite an honor and excitement to be sharing the insight of my study, where I'm trying to draw insight from a local university as to how transformation can be achieved in terms of stakeholder engagement by using branding and experience marketing. So first things first, I would like to invite you to come to an emotional journey with me, where you can imagine yourself standing at the crossroads of having to choose either between engaging with a local university or a global one. Now, as you look, you're thinking at yourself, what will make me to say yes or no? You are looking for a university where you can engage either as a student, as an employee, as a strategic partner, a donor, or just an affiliated member of a community. But now, as you travel in this mind journey, you are thinking, what you would like to get is a university whereby every interaction is engaging and it's personalized. It's like it's speaking directly to you. But as you think again, you are like thinking, is this a reality or a fantasy? Can this really happen? My answer is, what if I were to tell you that this is a reality? It is actually a reflection of what the stakeholders currently are looking for when engaging with the university. Now you come and ask yourself, what are stakeholders? According to a theory drawn by Friedman in 1984, he explains that stakeholders are any people or individuals or a group there of people that would like to engage by being involved in a university or an institution whereby they will have an effect to the university and they will be also affected. Now, if you look at that, you come to yourself and say, what does it have to do with the whole thing? It all started with branding. If I can take you through the roller coaster ride, it started in the 19th century when branding companies could only make a logo, and that would be enough, or a symbol to stand for what they believe in. But as the era transits, it became evident that it wasn't enough. They needed to craft more, something to sort of identify them and make them stand out from the crowd. A corporate identity, which also resonates with emotional connections of the people, which are stakeholders that we've explained. In 20th century, that was enough, but now we are in the 21st century. Having done that with the branding, it came clear that even emotional connections were not enough. People needed to be identified. They needed interaction that seems as if is speaking directly to them, personalized and very much engaging throughout their path. Now you'll pause and think to yourself, what does it have to do with a person who is a student, an employee, a strategic partner, a donor, or an affiliated member of the community? One of the things that universities stand for, as much as their core is to deliver higher education training, teaching and training, but they are in service for the community. So they need to make sure that whatever they do speaks to exactly the needs of the people they service.
Thank you, Monica. Your time is up. Let's give Monica a round of applause. Now I'm going to hand over to our judges, Dr. Priscilla and Prof. Erika.
Monica, thank you very much for that interesting presentation. Given the wide range of stakeholders that you describe in your presentation, what do you advise higher education institutions to do in order for them to make that important connection with stakeholders? Because it seems to me that this is a tall ask from the information that you've provided.
Thank you for that question. I will answer in a perspective of a student being a PhD student and also being involved in the marketing and communication. Like I've drawn the attention to say, we're now in an era whereby we need to engage our stakeholders. Could be a student. We need to know that in our communication, we don't only emphasize what, according to our capacity as an institution, we're able to provide, but we dig deep into finding out what is it that they actually are looking for. In doing that, we need to sort of strike a balance in finding out a student came to study, but what else is directing them to come to us with possible options that are available? Why didn't they go to another university and actually opted for this one? It could be it's because of the identity of the brand. It's because maybe it's because of the industry expectations based on what we produce as the institution. So finding that information from the people that actually comes to us will actually assist us into crafting the marketing campaigns that do not only are attracting when you are listening, but it is a living reality when they actually engage in a university. Thank you.
Thank you, Monica. Over to you, Prof. Erika. Apologies about that.
Hi. Hello. Very nice presentation. Thank you very much for that. I was wondering about the idea and the problem of branding in this age of fake news and misinformation. So how can we make sure that the higher education institutions leverage their brand, however, maintain a level of trust and transparency with the students in relation to their messaging?
That's a very good question, Prof. Thank you for that. Like I said, the knowledge of the people that we service is one of the important factors. Another point I was going to go to when speaking about experience marketing is that you embark on a principle of what we called equity, diversity, and inclusion. In that, you try and find out and declutter the messages whereby people are only putting in information that they want people out there to hear. But you want something that resonates with the community to say, as a university, this is what we stand for, irrespective of what is popular out there. If there are ethical issues that we stand and want to adhere, we will no longer compromise just because we want to be a highest place of attraction. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Monica. Let's please give Monica a round of applause. That is our last participant for the first round. Now we are going to quickly grab lunch. Unfortunately, we need to be strict with, tea. Oh my God, I am so hungry. Yes, tea. So we can grab tea. Please, can we just start at 11 o'clock? If you can just be here by 10:55. So it's going to be quick grab and run. Thank you. Welcome back again, ladies and gentlemen. Now we will proceed to the next part of the competition. We are still within the PhD category. Now we're going to call our next speaker, Mr. Clifford. Give him a round of applause as he's proceeding to the podium.
Testing 1 2 1 2. Just get this mic ready. Okay, can everybody hear me well? Perfect. Thank you. Okay. Good day, everyone. I would like to begin my presentation with a statement from Fela Anikulapo Kuti in his song Shuffling and Smiling. He says, "You Africans, listen to me as Africans. And you non-Africans, listen to me with open mind." I extend Fela's assertion as I invite you into my study, stating, "You sociologists, if there's any in the room, listen to me as sociologists. And you non-sociologists, listen to me with open mind." There has been a big push within the discipline of sociology in Africa to Africanize and decolonize the curriculum. This means we need to rethink the way we do our research, which is our epistemology, the way we view society, which is our ontology, and our pedagogical practices, the way we teach within the discipline. This study, my PhD thesis, embodies that charge by looking at African intellectual studies, cultural studies, and African sociological theory by presenting Fela Anikulapo Kuti, a musician in Nigeria, as an intellectual. To do this, the study uses a grounded research approach to come up with a trifocal lens approach, that's why you see the three lenses on Fela. The first two lenses, the Rumilized perspective and the Tibetan logic, center Yoruba knowledge systems to build a sociological theory on how we see Nigeria. And then the third approach is a vernacular intellectual classification, which extends the way we look at intellectuals beyond just the roles they play in society, but their relationality to the grassroots community. And then using this as a conceptual and methodological framework, the study then does critical discourse analysis on selected Fela songs as well as supplementary interviews to reveal the themes that were present in his songs that speak to post-coloniality and social change. Let's look at an example of armed forces brutality. In Fela's songs, Movement of the People, he historicizes this problem in colonialism. And then in the song Confusion Breaks Bone, he explains how the continued vestiges of this problem is perpetuated by the Nigerian government and the state parastatals. So what is the relevance of Fela today? Well, we see in the 2020 End SARS movement how the protesters protesting armed force brutality were sporting the double-fisted salute popularized by Fela. Then he's even beyond Nigeria. We also see him as a global figure in terms of how he even speaks to SDG 4, quality education, and SDG 16, social justice and strong systems. And so now that you have opened your mind with me, I leave us with the words of Tata Madiba, a fellow intellectual like Fela. Let us change the world. Thank you.
I grew up listening to Fela Kuti, and there were many lessons in the songs, and I'm really intrigued about your approach in terms of thinking about how we decolonize education, how we decolonize, how we understand cultures. I think I want to just explore a little bit in terms of the methodological approaches of your study in this. I mean, the placement of your study in this.
Thank you very much. So why this was a grounded study was because I'm trying to build a sociological theory that centers African knowledge systems. So in terms of the methodology, you see the ontology. Orumila's perspective is built from Yoruba Ifa cosmology. So Orumila, which is a god in the Ifa cosmology, he helps us understand why we are humans in society, which is the crux of sociology, trying to understand association and behavior. And then the Tibetan logic explains how we deal with the contradictions in society. So it critiques Aristotelian binary logic, which looks at society in binaries. The sky is either white or blue. But Tibetan logic says the sky can be white and blue. It's a continuum. That way, fella can be a musician and an intellectual. But it still needs to move further, because in current discourse, when we look at intellectuals, Antonio Gramsci has pretty much dominated writings in that area with the traditional and organic intellectual. But fella doesn't fit in there because his intellectualism, English, is best understood when you look at the context, the relationality which he did his dissemination, which is why the methodology has to center African knowledge systems. I hope that answers your question. Thank you.
Clifford, I talked about authenticity in my opening remarks. Thank you for your authenticity. A really wonderful presentation. Powerful, powerful use of graphics. I think so simple, but yet so powerful and profound. Really, I thought you used those graphics very cleverly with the lenses and with the juxtaposition of kind of the musician and his social impact. So well done on just really selecting that well. I think, certainly I think some of the most powerful use of graphics that we've seen today, and so simple, but yet so profound. So thank you. My question is very simple. What do we do with this information, that these binaries can exist and coexist? What do you think is the important kind of next steps in using this information and using this knowledge in our societies?
Thank you very much. When I started my presentation, I spoke about how in sociology in Africa, we're trying to decolonize not just the architecture of the discipline, but also the curriculum. So one of the things we can do going forward is to exercise agency. So myself, as a PhD student, I need to be able to exercise my agency within the discipline of sociology. Fela exercises his agency with the way he uses music to speak of social movements. And one of the ways I've been able to do that, I've contributed a book chapter to a textbook on decentered critical university studies, which should be coming out end of this year or next year. And that's one way to begin to bring this knowledge system that have been marginalized into the curriculum. But that's just within my field. The explanation of the vernacular intellectual is within our various fields. If we actually exercise our agencies in terms of, my recommendation will be grounded research. To actually, let's start from the ground within the context. Don't just take some European theory and add data to that. Why not create? So one way we can take this forward is within our disciplines and our spheres of society to actually begin to rethink these structures. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Clifford. Now up next, we are going to call up Fundile Nyaweni. Please give her a round of applause.
Imagine the battlefield within your body. Imagine the battlefield within your body. On one side, you've got the tumor cells, which act like invaders trying to take over. On another side, you've got the immune cells, which act like soldiers trying to protect your body. There is more to this story. There is competition for resources between the invaders, the immune cells, and the normal cells. It's almost like plants competing for sunlight outside the crowded garden. So now I actually want us to actually explore this battlefield. So the immune cells attack the tumor cells. However, the tumor cells are clever. They outmaneuver the immune system. So in our project, what we tried to do is we created a mathematical model that actually tries to understand this complex fight, that tries to understand the interaction between the invaders and the soldiers and how the competition for resources actually affects the outcome. So our story, it doesn't end there. We then actually explored this powerful weapon, which is known as chemotherapy. This weapon is treatment, and this treatment acts more like a bomb. It actually hits the invaders and harms some of the soldiers. So in our project, we actually tried to understand how this weapon can actually be used effectively such that it does not cause too much collateral damage. So through simulation and analysis, we find that just by using the appropriate amount of chemotherapy, it can kill the whole battlefield of tumor cells and causes the immune cells or the healthy cells to actually recover. So this brings us to the importance of early detection and personalized treatment, ensuring that the rightful strategy is actually used for each patient to win the battle against cancer. Thank you so much.
Over to you, judges.
Thank you, Fundile, for that enlivened presentation, and also for helping us to see the importance of mathematical models and simulations to therapies that are needed by society. So my question to you is, once you have finalized your analysis, how do we move on from your results to the real life environment? So from simulation to the real life environment, what is your recommendation for how we do that?
So my recommendation, because we all know that when you are, research shows that doctors actually give each and every patient fixed dosages. So there isn't any strategy, that there isn't any optimization that they actually use. So I would recommend that we actually use this, my project as a way forward. We can actually use it as an app, create an app, such that app will actually help the doctors to know, to personalize each and every treatment for each patient, not that the same dosages be given to per patient, yet our bodies are actually different, they work differently. Maybe my body will actually, if I take the chemotherapy drug, maybe my body will actually kill the tumor faster than your body as an individual. So if this model can actually be, actually made into an app, and then those key things be introduced into it, so it can actually help a lot in personalizing treatment for each and every individual who is battling the battle against cancer.
Yesterday, Professor Kiulebohile Mutaung talked about commercialize or perish. I think you've already found an innovation for yourself, so you should make a plan and go to the innovation office and start talking to them about this aspect of how your model can be made into an app, and you can provide a solution. I think we all need to start thinking about that idea of commercializing our findings, especially for something that can have such a big impact on the healthcare system.
Thank you so much. Now up next is Marilyn Vere. Please, let's give her a round of applause.
Wow, it's already up there, no time to breathe. Good morning, everyone. I'll go right into it. My name is Marilyn, and I'm here to talk to you about parasites. Ladies and gentlemen, I want you to imagine kids who are playing in the field during break time, lunchtime. On weekends, they go to the rivers, they swim. These kids are innocent. They don't know that they are vulnerable to parasites. These parasites can invade their bodies, and they can dwell in their bodies for 10 years. And these parasites sometimes are asymptomatic, so they don't get sick and they don't seek treatment. But these parasites have devastating effects in the bodies of children. So what we did was we found out that through a retrospective study, there were parasites that are reported in the clinics to actually show that they are present in Nelson Mandela Bay. So we sought out to go into the field to test children to see if they have these parasites. And the parasites we were looking for in our study were schistosomiasis and STHs. These parasites diagnosed using traditional diagnostic methods to actually find the eggs of the worms in stool samples and urine samples of kids. So we did that, but the traditional diagnostic methods, they are not sensitive because in Nelson Mandela Bay, it's a low transmission area. The transmission occurs, but it's very low, at low concentrations. So the traditional diagnostic methods missed most of the cases, but we were eager to find out the true distribution of these parasites. Then we went on further to dig deeper using more sensitive molecular, which picks DNA. Like DNA is so small that it's missed by most of the tests. So we did that, and alas, we found out that most of the kids are actually infected with schistosomiasis and so transmitted helminthiasis. So what are we saying? We need to develop strategies and treatment programs that can actually treat kids from these parasites so that they can actually grow up. Because, for example, schistosomiasis, if a child is infected with schistosomiasis, they can go for 40 years without knowing. But the effects of the disease includes learning disabilities, loss of cognitive function, and then we're also looking at female genital schistosomiasis, which can actually cause ulcerations in the urogenital tract. And these kids will actually experience infertility, blood in their urine, and they don't know that it's because of these parasites. So ladies and gentlemen, our study was a precursor to actually go further and study these parasites in Nelson Mandela Bay. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Marilyn. I will start with Prof. Erica online. While we're waiting for Prof. Erica, let's hand over to Dr. Balisa. It's on. Is it on?
Technical problems. I think your work is so important, and I just wanted to understand the areas of prevalence along the distribution area that you, and what are the possible sources for contamination? Is it informal settlements? Is it like, where is it?
Schistosomiasis and soil-transmitted helminthiasis, they are usually found in areas without access to clean water facilities in the underdeveloped areas where they do not have access to good healthcare facilities. So we are looking at rural areas. For example, in South Africa, studies have actually found that KwaZulu-Natal, Limpopo, across the Eastern Cape, we actually found that those cases are present. But in urban areas, we're talking about migrated cases that come from the rural areas into the urban areas. So when these cases are introduced into the urban areas, they can go on without being detected. But kids are infected because when a child who's infected who comes from a rural area urinates in a water body, they can now transmit the parasite, and another child who's uninfected, when they come into contact with the water body, get the infection in the urban area. So our study wanted to see that in an urban setting, is transmission occurring? And our study proves that yes, it is occurring, and these parasites are present in Nelson Mandela.
Prof. Erica.
Yes, hi, I'm here, sorry. Hello, Marilyn. Thank you very much for your very clear presentation, very interesting findings. I was wondering, how might the result of your study influence health policies and interventions in the area, and how you might communicate that to the politicians?
Thank you so much, Doc. Prof, sorry. So in South Africa, unfortunately, there aren't any control programs, because I actually did a systematic review to actually map the control programs that have been done in sub-Saharan Africa that are taking care of schistosomiasis to ensure that we actually have enough control programs to eliminate and control these parasitic infection. And unfortunately in South Africa, we don't have one because the praziquantel, which is the drug that is used to treat schistosomiasis, is actually sold at a very higher price because it's sold as butricide, which is more expensive. We don't have the generic forms of the drugs that are actually being used elsewhere for these mass drug administrations. So our study is also hoping to improve those policies to actually ensure that we can actually bring it home and make sure that these treatment programs are brought to children who are in our communities.
Now up next, we have Dakalo Singer. Are you here? Over to you, Dakalo. All the best.
Can everyone hear me? Okay. Okay. So, good morning, everyone. I'll be taking you through my study, which we focus on obesity as a health crisis with limited options. So, everyone wants to lose weight, but the current interventions, they are limited. So, since they are limited, even the drugs that are managed to treat obesity, they are limited due to their side effects and other many things. So, obesity can be described as it can be characterized by an inflammation in your body. So there are phytochemicals that has been used in previous studies, like blueberries that are full of antioxidants to treat this obesity. So various studies used these blueberries to treat obesity, but they were successful. However, the problem, it was due to their low solubility and low biodistribution. So the field of nanotechnology helped us to improve this. So by that, what do we do in my study? We focus on using this blueberry extract to synthesize these gold nanoparticles. So we treat these gold nanoparticles in an obese model, just to imitate our obesity. Then we use the low dose and the high dose, which is the high dose is times to the dose of the lower dose. So what we found in my study was that the lower dose had a much impact compared to the lower dose, which significantly reduced the body weight of this animal model. But the research didn't just end there. We also went forward to find out that the inflammation that was caused by this obesity, it was reduced in the brain, which also give us other alternatives by this nanotherapy to treat diseases such as Alzheimer's. Thank you.
Over to you, judges.
Thank you very much for that interesting presentation on a topic that's very important because obesity is a serious health problem. I liked the refreshing drink in your slide, but I thought that given all the work that you have done, the antioxidants that you've extracted, and the reactions that you've done with the gold nanoparticles, it would have been nice to see a representation of all of that work that's linked to your findings. But I guess the question then from a user perspective is, I have tried some of these therapies. So something like obesity, the remedy is generally not something that will make you sick, right? Which means most people can have it, like moringa products. In your planning, are you going to test that on the general public for recommendations on taste, et cetera, et cetera?
Using gold nanoparticles or just...
Is your remedy not a drink with the infused antioxidants?
Okay, yes, my remedy is actually in a solvent form, but we used it, when we were treating, we used the intraperitoneal injection to treat, yes.
Will that be your recommendation going forward, that it will be delivered as an injection or something else?
No, going forward, we are looking at to make maybe capsules so that it's easier for people to digest rather than just injections because they are quite painful.
You, Mr. Mike?
Decano, thank you so much. Yeah, certainly an interesting topic, interesting study, and a needed one, I think. My question for you, so you've convinced us that these nanoparticles do work to reduce obesity. My question to you is why do they work? So what is the reason that they are working? Thanks.
Yeah, that's a very good question. So these gold nanoparticles, actually there are several types of methods that are used to synthesize, one being chemical, other being biological or natural synthesis. So my method uses natural. So other studies, they've indicated that the chemical synthesis one worked to prove, to reduce the body weight. So mine, it was to take it to a natural and safer mode that works actually. Yeah, it was to deviate from chemical to biological, which is less harmful.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Dakalo. Now we're going to call up next, Privilege. Are you ready for us? Yes.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Privilege Mabiza Kanotangoza. So one morning, Saturday morning, I'm feeling quite motivated. I'm thinking, let me go for a jog at the park. So with my daughter in tow. So now, as we walk in the street that we were walking in, it was littered with a lot of unused syringes and condoms. So I remember my daughter asked me if she could pick one of the used syringes so that she could play with. She wanted to play doctor, doctor. So I said, to explain to her the dangers associated with the use of those used syringes. So now I'm thinking back and I'm asking myself, if I didn't know the dangers of her using the used syringes, I just cringe at the idea. So this is the reality that most parents, guardians, and caregivers are faced with. They are tasked with raising kids that are digitally more competent than they are. I think one thing that we all in this room can agree to it is that most kids, most young children, they are using digital technologies every time. So, as much as there are opportunities associated with their use, there is also risks and dangers associated with them. Pornography, cyberbullying, mental health contents, addiction, the list goes on. So how do we make our young children cultivate more of the opportunities and mitigate the risks? So I'm saying let's start at the school level. Let's implement digital citizenship education into the school curriculum. Let's make our children use digital technologies responsibly and safely. I intend to develop a framework that will standardize digital citizenship education across the country. I'm saying let's every learner, regardless of which school they attend, be it rural, be it urban, public or private, whether they use digital technologies or not, let them all benefit from the same foundational knowledge on navigating digital spaces in line with SDG 4 quality education. Thank you.
Don't run away, Privilege.
Yes, running away.
I think obviously this is a very, very important topic. And I think I like the way you approach it with your own personal story about the importance of education, and obviously the context setting around the digital era that we are in. Every child has a cell phone. But I'm gonna ask you a question that maybe more, you can look at it dually.
Okay.
There are two groups of stakeholders responsible for the child.
Yes.
There's the school, then there's home.
Yes.
The parent buys the cell phone, the parent provides access to the cell phone.
Yes.
So even if we want to talk about this digital citizenship and creating awareness, the responsibilities of the two. And how do you see that working? Because you're talking about curriculum, but also there's things that have to start at home.
Yes. Okay, so remember I said parents, caregivers, and guardians, they are being tasked with raising kids that are more digitally competent than they are. So we can all attest in this room, there is a point when your niece or your child or your nephew have helped you with an app somehow. I consider myself digitally tech savvy somehow, but I've been helped by my kids to do some of the digital stuff. So as much as we as parents are supposed to be guiding our children with the responsible use of digital technologies, we are ill-equipped. We are ill-equipped. So that's why I'm saying, I acknowledge that parents also need to be aware and they need to know. But for now, let's start at the school level, where everyone can get the same foundational knowledge, regardless of whether there is a parent at home, whether there is a caregiver or whoever who can help them, whether they know how to help them or not. That's besides the point. Let's start at the school. Just like we teach sex education during life orientation at the schools. Let's do that with digital technology education as well, so that they know how to be safe regardless of the home situation. Thank you.
Over to you, Prof. Erika.
Hello, hi, Privilege. Thank you so much for a really important and relevant presentation, relevant all over the world, here in the UK as well. I was wondering whether you had plans to measure the effectiveness of your digital citizenship education program, and how can you ensure that it's having an impact on the students' behavior and their well-being?
Okay, thank you for the question. I intend to evaluate the framework that I'm going to produce somehow using DCE, Digital Citizenship Education experts. But in terms of the actual measurement of the impact, I think that's quite long term. It's not something that will come out in the coming year or 2 years. I think it's something that would do eventually as time goes on. So it would require more years so that we can really measure the impact of what we're trying to do. Yes, I think that's my take on that one.
Thank you so much. Are you sorted, Prof? Let's give Privilege a round of applause. Now, up next is Ms. Tembeka Sidinane. Are you ready for us? All the best, Sissy.
Okay. And then what do I do to project the slide? Yes. Oh, okay. It costs around 1,200 to 1.5 an hour for a session with a therapist, right? And with that in mind, I want you to reflect on the affordability of mental health care in South Africa, the accessibility of it, as well as how relative it is in addressing your needs. And in addition to that, think about how people in the rural areas address their mental health care. in light of mental health care services not being available to them. We know that indigenous healing methods has been ways in which people address their healthcare concerns. However, in psychology, when you refer to indigenous healing methods, they will tell you that it's not scientific, there's a lot of mumbo-jumbo that's there. But in this study, what we're trying to do is to find a way where modern science is learning from ancient wisdom. We do this by exploring potential benefits that are inherent in religious rituals in terms of enhancing psychological well-being. To situate psychological well-being, we conceptualize it as ukuphila emoyeni, in that we acknowledge that umoya is psychological, umoya is spiritual, and umoya is emotional. So when we speak about psychological well-being, we may not exclude the dimensions of spirituality as well as the dimensions of emotions. We conducted the study in the villages, in the rural areas of Matatiele, where in the public health care system, there's zero allocations for mental health beds in any of the public hospitals. And the findings in this study suggested that the people, they do use rituals to enhance their well-being. And such benefits are those that include the ability to form social connections through rituals, the personal growth, as well as receiving healing. Now, with that in mind, we are starting to develop guidelines that are going to guide psychologists in terms of how to integrate religious practices in psychological interventions in order for the field of psychology to offer services that are culturally appropriate for individuals. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sisi. Now over to our beautiful judges.
Thank you, Tembeka, for a presentation on a very important theme that addresses mental health. I did wonder about the findings of your study, what examples communities are using to, what are some of the examples? So you did say it emerged that they, in the absence of psychiatrists and psychologists being available, they have other mechanisms that they use to address mental health. So what are some of those examples?
Okay, so the study focused on well-being, and one of the rituals, which I think is mostly common across cultures in South Africa, that were highlighted by most participants, was the ritual of uklambulula, which is a cleansing ritual. And what that ritual signifies, it signifies restoring harmony. So the participants will say that if I've got a problem that is affecting me psychologically or my emotions or spiritually, I realize there's an imbalance that is going on around me. And in order for me to be well, I need to restore that imbalance. So they use, for example, uklambulula as such a ritual. And within the Zionist church, uklambulula is an observance in a manner that it's a standing item in a Sunday service where individuals are asked to state whether they are feeling well emotionally, physically, or otherwise. It is also a process where maybe you might find that one person has to go maybe to the river to use uklambulula in the river, using water as a source of healing, for example. So I think from the results, uklambulula is such a ritual. Prayer as well, because this is church, it came up a lot, as well as using text, for example, scripture reading and so forth.
Yeah, thank you very much, Tembeka, for a lovely presentation. I recently became aware of a research project at UNISA that's looking at lekgotlas and through the law faculty and the important role that lekgotlas play on reducing the court burden, the amount of cases that are going into the formal court systems. And we know that the court system in South Africa is also overburdened, much like the hospital and clinic system. And this project really just reminds me of that. My question to you is, what do you think is a desired state of the interaction between these traditional practices and the formal kind of clinical system and medical system? Are these things, should they be kept mutually exclusive and just valued for what they are, or should there be interactions between these two systems?
Ideally, it will be, I think, a good case if we harmonize, the two systems. So finding ways in which the two systems can exist together, because currently, I'm in the psychology field and we are othering the traditional systems, but we need to be able to acknowledge that it works for the people, and in absence of our biomedical systems, people do rely on the traditional healing methods. So we need to find a ways in which we integrating them into the current modalities, and that is not only to say for those people that don't have access, but for people that do have access. For example, even I as a learned person, maybe who's got access, who can use my medical aid to get to a therapist, if I go to a therapist and they don't really, the modality or the treatment care does not really address my way of being and my way of healing, then it's not going to be doing any justice to me. So ideally, we want to find a way where you are providing culturally appropriate services towards all individuals. Yes.
Thank you so much, Thembeka. You can proceed to your seat. Let's give all the participants a round of applause. So now we're going to call up all the judges to come on stage to give their final comments to all participants today. We will afford each judge 3 minutes. 3 minutes to just give us an overall final comments out of this competition today. Thank you. We will start with Dr. Mensi, and then up to Mr. Mike, and then we will go online to Prof. Erika. Thank you. Over to you, judges.
So I'm really just proud of Mandela students. I'm just... my portfolio at the university is research development, so I know all of you. And all of you know me. But we really wanted a platform that allows you to showcase the research that you do. And the 3-minute thesis competition is one example of how you can take the research that you do, you as the expert can present it to a non-expert audience, and they can be wowed by all the things that you are doing. And the value of this kind of platform is that a lot of funding available to postgraduate students is taxpayer funds. So it kind of makes sense that you let taxpayers know how this research is beneficial. And one of the things I loved about the spread of disciplines today, you took us from music to the humanities, to cancer research, to spirituality, and all of it. We've really gone on a journey. I will just advise that when you work with the team that preps you for the 3-minute thesis competition, that you apply the notes. I will say majority of the students did apply the notes, but we would like to see detail in one slide of all of the steps that you go through, including, so if I were to be slightly critical, I think many of the presenters skimmed on the methodology. We would have liked to see a little more of your methodology in the presentation. But otherwise, well done. My heart is full.
Yeah, thank you for the opportunity. I think it's always wonderful. I arrived here last year during Research Week, so it's like a full round, different experience. Yeah, happy anniversary to me. Thank you. And it's been really wonderful to listen to the research that you are all doing. I think this platforms allows you to really think about the impact of your work. The person who's listening is trying to figure out, why are you doing this work? What does it mean to me? And you must remember that it's a diverse group of people who are listening to you, who are not in your discipline. And when they say layman's terms, they don't mean like dumb it down, because we are all intellectual, we have all an understanding, but just make it clear and articulate why. Put the context, highlight the problem, highlight your approach, which is what Dr. Mensah was mentioning about the methodology, your approach in solving that, and then what does it mean and how will that impact me and everyone around me, or the environment, or policy. And it was really nice. I mean, I think I learned a lot about law and discrimination and mathematical models used for cancer. And I really want that candidate to go to the innovation office. I'm gonna find you. So it's very important. And I think also just to take time when you are doing your presentation. I know it's 3 minutes, but you can actually, if you calm yourself down, convey the information very clearly in that 3 minutes. And also just practice. I think the people that we stopped had not taken the time to practice. The slide is used as an aid for us to kind of follow your talk. And it doesn't always have to be 1 slide, it can be 3 slides. And, yeah, sorry, she said, yeah, not for this one, but I mean, you can convey the information more appropriately even with the slides so that we can follow what you are saying. The visuals also help you a lot and help the audience to get the message, especially if we didn't get like a summary before or anything like that. So yeah, good luck again, and we'll be watching for the next group.
Yeah, what can I say? Well done, Nelson Mandela Bay, or Nelson Mandela University. You guys have done superbly. Really, it has been a great honor to just listen to the talks today, and such passion. Yeah, well done for your preparation. Well done for sharing. It's about authenticity. Thank you. We've seen a lot of authenticity today, but we've also seen a lot of accuracy. We've seen a lot of accessible talks. We've seen a lot of impactful talks. So I think all of those things I can reflect back and say, definitely, I saw all of those in different measures in different talks, but certainly came across well. Yeah, my encouragement, I was speaking to someone over the break, and he was reflecting on, just want more opportunities, I want to go and do this again. And that, I think, is such a good attitude to have. I think no one has reached the pinnacle of being able to communicate their research. The more you do it, the easier it becomes. The more people will give you some tips and show where they maybe didn't understand what you said, and how you could convey your ideas in more impactful ways. I'll also say, coming from the NRF, that research impact is becoming a very hot topic, and it's not going to go away. We've got in South Africa, we've got a limited fiscus. There's only so much research funding that comes into South Africa. And so the being impactful about what we as NRF are funding is becoming more and more and more important. And I can only see that going into the future. So impact statements is something, actually, in a couple of weeks' time, I'll be in Cape Town at a conference there that specifically is looking at impact statements. How in research do we articulate in an impactful way what the intended impact of this research is going to be. And yes, sometimes for kind of fundamental research, that's a difficult thing to try and, if you're doing something on some subatomic particle to try and articulate what the impact or intended impact of that research is going to be, or some mathematical. We've heard a lot of mathematical modeling, so it's not always easy to define these impact pathways, but it's very, very important, and it's going to be very important, I think, into the future. So yeah, well done. Keep it up, and keep up with the passion. Really, that comes across so clearly in your presentations. So thank you so much for sharing.
I wish to add that the winner and runner-up of today's competition, which will be announced on Friday, will have an opportunity to represent Mandela University at the national level. So, besides 3-minute thesis, there are other mechanisms that allow students to present their work, and I'm sure you would have heard about or seen the Mandela Heat that happened for FameLab. So it's a similar platform, and Michael, your office manages that, am I right? With partners, okay. So I have to say that we have a finalist amongst us, Ms. Yolanda Mangongo, yes, yes, yes. Yolanda Mangongo, close enough. So the FameLab competition will be happening on the 19th of September. At what time? Okay, so we are working on having a Mandela viewing party. So be on the lookout for additional information, just so that we can cheer our finalists on. Thank you.
Thank you so much, judges. Now we're going to hand over to Prof. Erica online. Over to you, Prof.
Hi. So, firstly, I would like to just say thank you to the organizer for inviting me to take part to the 3MT competition at the Nelson Mandela University. It was really a privilege to be here today. Then I want to, of course, thank you all of the presenters. So the insightful presentation that you've delivered today were a real joy, and they really showcased the cutting-edge research and innovative thinking that is taking place at the Nelson Mandela University. The diversity of the topics and the passion with which you presented them was really a true showcase of the potential academic of your community. I was particularly impressed by the way you all navigated quite complex subject matter and translated your depth knowledge into a clear and engaging presentation. And this ability to communicate effectively across disciplines is really important for researchers in today's globalized world. And your presentation really showed how important is storytelling and the importance to connect research to real-world challenges and opportunities, whether it's through metaphors. Some of you used personal anecdotes. You demonstrated the ability to engage and to inspire the audience. And this is really critical skill to make an impact outside academia. Just a few words of maybe advice. So as you continue your PhD journeys or your master journeys, remember that public speaking is not just about disseminating your findings, but it also is for you to refine your ideas, to receive valuable feedback, and to build connection maybe with your fellow researchers and potential collaborators. So embrace these opportunities, and this will for sure enrich your research. So I encourage you to keep on doing this, as it was said today before. And I would really also encourage you, as it was said to you before, to pay particular attention to the visual aids to engaging with the audience and also to time management. And as you gain experience, you'll find that this ability to communicate will become more and more easy for you, and it will become also almost as important as the research itself. Yeah, so the final words are really to commend you. Your work is clearly has the potential to be very impactful, and it really also reflects a deep commitment to addressing local and global issues. And I am really confident that you will make a significant contribution to your field. So keep asking those questions, keep challenging assumptions, keep pushing the boundaries of knowledge, and you will be the researchers of the future. So thank you again for sharing your work with me. It's been a true pleasure today to be part of this experience, and I wish you all the very best with your future endeavors.
Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. Now we have come to an end to the part of the program. So now the next part that we need to do, we need to vote for the People's Choice. And the link will close at 2 p.m. today. So we have QR codes that are available online as well. There is a link that is shared for online viewers to continue to vote. So this moment, this hour from now until 2 o'clock, it will be opened up for choosing the most people, the most person that you actually liked, that actually fascinated you or mesmerized you, or who had a great impact and showcased significance within their research. Now, judges, they're going to break away. So we are going to break away, go to the boardroom, that is our venue, where we will be scoring your presentations and so forth. But with that being said, we would love to say thank you so much for spending this time with us. We really enjoy. You are actually a beautiful crowd. So give yourselves a round of applause. Okay. So also, I would like to afford you an opportunity if you would love to add or maybe mention something. I'll just give you 2 minutes because Miss Yolanda, our FameLab winner, seemingly she has an announcement.
Thank you so much, Doc. No, it's not with regards to the talks. I enjoyed, like, it was proper, to be honest with you. And, you know, with all the master classes as to what you have to do and everything, this is what I saw. And I also picked up some pointers, yes, from the judges and everything. I just wanted to ask, like, with the People's Choice Awards, I heard you saying that there's one that's going to be chosen, but I say there's 2 for both masters and the PhD. So I'm not sure if you choose.
Thank you for that beautiful question. Just for clarity's sake, for the People's Choice, it will be either masters or PhD. That person will be awarded 1,000 rand. Does that? It's not about we need to choose both. Dr. Priscilla?
It comes. It comes down to numbers. So the person with the most votes will win, whether they are masters or PhD.
So is it clear to everyone? Okay, so we can expect any masters or PhD holder. Just to round up, so prizes as follows. Masters winner will be awarded 4,000, and then we'll have 2 runner-up because we had 3 participants, right? So the 2 runner-ups will be awarded 1,000 each. Then for PhD holders and the winner for the PhD candidates will be participating in the national hit, right? So that person who is the winner will be awarded 5,000 rand, and then the runner-up will be 3,000 rand. Then the People's Choice Award, or the most person who got votes, will be awarded 1,000 rand. Right? So can we please support the voting system and pump those votes and keep them coming? So thank you so much. With that being said, then now we are done. So the awards, actually the winner will be announced on Friday during the prize giving at 3 o'clock. Okay, so the person will be announced on Friday at 3 o'clock. All right, so thank you so much, ladies and gents.